Aw shit, here we go again. Hello and welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. So yes, today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind Season 3. The first 4 episodes have dropped on Netflix, and I was pleasantly surprised. Season 3 is kind of a make or break season for Love is Blind because Season 1 was very well received. It had a lot of success with the couples that we did get out of it, and Season 2 was kind of a total train wreck, and you can watch my videos on that if you're interested. So the show is at a crossroads. We have a good season and a bad season, and Season 3 is going to be the tiebreaker. Is Love is Blind still a good concept? Is love blind, as they like to ask? Or was it a one-hit wonder with Season 1, and Season 2 is more of what we're going to be getting from future seasons? So in this video, I'll be discussing the first 4 episodes of Love is Blind Season 3, my first impressions of the cast and our new couples, as well as predictions to who's gonna make it to the end of the season. Though historically, I am a horrible predictor for these things, so we'll see how my predictions fare this time around, and I will be making a part 2 to this video after the entire season is out. And as with any trashy Netflix reality show, I want to give my disclaimer that when I'm judging this cast, I'm really judging a edited and produced version of themselves that's almost like a fictional character. I don't think our opinions or perceptions about these people reflect the real person that they are in real life off of the show. So I just have to say it every time. It's just a TV show. It's not that serious. Let's just have fun with it. So I actually do want to ask my usual question, and that is Love is Blind Season 3 worth watching? I do think Season 3 is maybe worth watching. If you liked Season 1 a lot, if you like the part of Love is Blind that's like getting invested in couples and rooting for them, Season 3 so far is shaping up to be a little bit more genuine and authentic, and it's giving me a lot of more Season 1 vibes than Season 2. So if Season 2 really turned you off of Love is Blind, Season 3 might be worth a shot. Right off the bat, the cast had a lot more personality. Like, I was able to tell who was who a lot quicker. At this point, I am rooting for certain couples, and there is a lot more physical chemistry as well. That was something that I felt was missing in Season 2. Every couple meeting was kind of more awkward, and no couple was like really all over each other physically as much as Season 1. And Season 3 has a lot of physical chemistry going on. So if you've totally given up on Love is Blind but want to give it one more shot, I think this season might be worth one. But also I'm wondering if I'm pleasantly surprised by this season because Season 2 put the bar on the floor. Like, I don't think Love is Blind can get worse than Season 2. So let's move on to the first 4 episodes. So far this season is the same format that we've seen before. It's 4 episodes, and 2.5 of the episodes are pods, and then 1.5 are the honeymoon stage after the couples get engaged. Oh, and as usual, the Lacheys are there. They're the hosts. I always forget about them. I feel like their job could be done by a voiceover type narrator, and they're just so unnecessary there. I would be interested in a format that's similar to Michelle Buteau hosting The Circle on Netflix. She's a comedian, so she makes funny comments in the voiceover throughout the entire season about all of the players, and then we just see her at the end to moderate the finale and reunion and stuff. The Lacheys do the same job as Michelle Buteau, but don't bring any of the narration and comedy that she does that makes The Circle so special. Side tangent, do y'all remember The Soup on E back in the late 2000s and 2010s? It was basically just Joel McHale bullying every person on reality TV. They had this one segment that was called Stay Out of It, Nick Lachey. That's still what I think of when I see Nick Lachey on Love is Blind, especially because I want him out of there.
Stay out of it, Nick Lachey.
Yeah, that girl is so mean. So let's get into our cast recap. I am going to group them in the couples they ended up with, but I'll make sure to talk about each person individually in the pods first. And by the way, I didn't look at Reddit to see what the fans' opinions are on the cast yet, but for my post-season video, I will see the fan reaction and see how much I agree or disagree with y'all. So let's start with Nancy and Bartise. I find this couple to be the main character couple. I feel like we always have one every season. And I think they're a main character couple because they both had love triangles in the pods, which adds a lot of interesting drama later on. First, let's talk about Nancy. She is 32 and a real estate investor. The information I got about ages and job titles are more recent, so on the show, they're like a year or two younger than what I'm gonna say for each person. Nancy is kind of traditional seeming. I mean, so is everyone on the show. I mean, they're all obsessed with marriage, so they gotta be a little traditional, but she like wants 10 kids. And she has chemistry with Bartise right off the bat. They both speak Spanish. And right in that moment, I already started buying into this couple. I was like, oh, they both speak Spanish. They have similar kind of backgrounds. That's cute. And Nancy early on has Bartise as her number one choice. There is another girl in the pods named Raven, who we'll talk about later, who also likes Bartise, and Nancy in the pods is a lot more secretive towards the other girls about who she's liking, and Raven kind of doesn't like that about her. Early on, they're establishing a rivalry between Nancy and Raven that comes into play later. On her second date with Bartise, she admits her vulnerability thing, which every person that goes in the pods has like a vulnerability moment, like a secret that is like the big thing about them that someone should know. And Nancy's big secret is that she donated a lot of her eggs a while back, meaning that she likely has children out in the world that she doesn't know or is not responsible for. I don't know how she has any eggs left because she said she donated like 100 eggs. Did she say 100 eggs? She said a lot of eggs that I was like, girl, do you have any left? Like, I don't remember if it was 100, but it was a lot. But Bartise is fine with it. Later on, she finds out that Bartise is 25, and she's kind of shook by that. His age is kind of her biggest hesitance about him. Meanwhile, Nancy is also connecting with Andrew, who is a very interesting character. Nancy is kind of intrigued by Andrew, who talks a lot about sex in a sensual way. He has a sensual voice too, that's like deep and radio quality, she calls it. But once he starts getting into his marriage philosophy, I feel like Nancy started to be like, I don't know about this guy. And I couldn't follow it myself. He was getting real airy-fairy about marriage. It was like, you should marry the person you're least compatible with for some reason. I couldn't follow. And I was like, and Nancy was like, I don't know. But at the same time, Nancy is still torn at the end. I don't know if it was, overproduced for drama, but she's torn in her love triangle between Bartise and Andrew, because Andrew does speak very intelligently and stuff, and Bartise is 25 years old and she's worried about his age being an issue. Even when Bartise starts saying, I'm falling in love with you, which is a milestone in the pod, you meet, you have chemistry, a few dates, and then you have the falling in love talk, and then you have the in love talk, and then you have the proposal. It's very laid out for people. When Bartise has the falling in love conversation, Nancy doesn't really reciprocate that much, and I was kind of like, oh, is she gonna go for Andrew? But she could have just been edited weird in that moment. Nancy's decision between the two men is actually the cliffhanger at the end of episode 2. At first it looks like she's gonna choose Andrew because he's the first one she went to, but she says no to him. She's kind of worried about him having some deceptive qualities. So let's go ahead and finish talking about Andrew here, because he was the only featured cast member who didn't end up engaged by the end of the pods. And he is so bizarre. I mean, he was talking about his best sex was transcendental, and he learned good sex from a 41-year-old lady he dated in Bali, because he's a wildlife photographer, so he has a very interesting job. I was happy Nancy went with Bartise over him, but after he got rejected by Nancy, we see him in his talking head interviews with the producers, and he's putting in eye drops to make it look like he's crying. We did not get much context or explanation from producers. It was a very interesting transparency moment for Love is Blind, especially with it being such an overproduced show. I've talked about it a million times, especially after season 2, where the producer hand felt very heavy-handed. And this type of show, and dating shows in general, they don't like to show you any behind-the-scenes things about it. It ruins the fantasy for people. So I was shocked they showed this one behind the scenes moment for once. It was wild because he was putting in eye drops and pretending like he was crying about Nancy, and he was asking if they were rolling and then putting in the eye drops. I was like, what the fuck is this? I guess he was deceptive, which is what Nancy implied, but I felt like as the audience we didn't get much other explanations of Andrew being deceptive. It was just this final tears moment that felt so odd and creepy and bizarre. Oddly enough, this kind of moment makes me trust the production a little more, and I don't know how intentional that is of them or if they just thought it was bizarre and thought it'd be interesting to put. I'm most curious to see what the fan reaction is for this. It just proves Andrew was there for clout, I guess. He's there for the wrong reasons, as they like to say on The Bachelor, because he was like, and scene afterwards, it felt like. So let's move on to Nancy's match, Bartise, who is 27 and a senior analyst. On the show, he was 25, and that was a big talking point, and he mentioned how he is seen as immature for his age, and he actually does want marriage and kids and all of this stuff sooner than maybe he feels his peers do. So Bartise is also caught in a love triangle, and that is between Nancy and Raven, who's a Pilates instructor. Him and Raven bond a lot about their fitness. Raven is a serial worker outer, in her words. I thought they had cool chemistry, so I was like, oh dang, who is he gonna go with? And when Raven admits that she used to bartend and do bottle service, implying it was a little bit sexy, I guess, I thought it was going to be that she was a stripper. Like, Bartise thought she was going to say that she had been a stripper before. It wasn't even that extreme, but Bartise had no problem with it. Also, when Nancy admitted her egg donation stuff, he was cool with that too. So in general, Bartise was cool with everyone's vulnerability secrets that they have to share. He also really wants kids. Nancy wants 10 kids. Everyone wants kids on the season really bad. Bartise tries to get vulnerable about his family to Raven while she does jumping jacks. She wasn't kidding about being a serial worker outer. But on their following date, which I thought was gonna go well because Bartise made Raven's room all fill up with money because it was an inside joke about how he thought she had been a stripper before. But on this date, he admits that he's more into Nancy and that he wants to stop things with Raven. Then he goes and tells the boys he's not into Raven anymore, and the boys are kind of shocked because he was really into Raven the day before. So it was kind of a really quick choice for Bartise from going from 2 love interests to 1 really fast. But he just tells the boys he's falling in love with Nancy. And then he proposes. At his proposal, I saw his youthfulness come out because he proposed in a t-shirt. Most of the guys propose in a nice suit. Not Bartise. He is too hip and Gen Z for that. Is he Gen Z? I don't know. I mean, he's younger than I am. Or maybe he's my age now. I don't know. I get confused with the timelines. But Bartise, when he sees Nancy, also says, sheesh. So that told me, yeah, this boy is 25 years old. So now let's discuss Nancy and Bartise post-engagement. When they meet, Bartise is very into Nancy's boobs. There was a lot of fans of boobs this season, and they are both very happy about each other's physical appearances. They have a lot of physical chemistry. They're making out. She mentions in an interview confessional that she is DTF, basically, and of course he is. At the honeymoon, we see them have a bathtub date, which the bathtub was way too tiny. Like, why did other couples get a full pool and these two got this tiny ass bathtub? Bartise is also like the largest man there, so like they're just cramped in this little bathtub. And for some reason, she keeps talking about clogging toilets while they're on their date in the bathtub, and it's very unsexy, and he just kind of listens like, and she just keeps talking about it, and then he eventually just starts kissing her and making out, and that shuts her up. I just was like, girl, what are you doing? You're killing the vibe. They do have sex the first night. I think all the couples except for one have sex the first night, which is a vast improvement from season 2 when I don't know if any of them had sex the first night. Maybe one of them. Maybe Nick and Danielle did. I don't remember, but there was like no physical chemistry on season 2. And as far as discussions that they have on the honeymoon, they discuss their age gap a bit. They talk about how they don't want to tell each other's friends or families. More Nancy, she doesn't want to tell her friends right away that he's 25. But they are so into each other that they mentioned they want to get Love is Blind tattoos, which, ew. Everything seems to be going perfectly for Bartise and Nancy until the exes meetup party where they get to meet all of the other couples. Once Bartise sees Raven, he is wowed by her body. And he's kind of shameless about it. In the interviews, he's saying she's a baddie, she's a smoke show. However, he still seems very into Nancy throughout this party. He tells the boys that if he had to marry her today, he would say yes. But when Bartise starts learning about SK and Raven's relationship and how they're very distant physically, he's like, if I was with Raven, she would sit closer to me. She would be into me physically. He's different, you guys. And he does mention that his biggest pod regret, which this was poked by producers, like they asked the question, I'm sure. He says his biggest pod regret is that he cut it off with Raven too soon. And then at the end of the night, he's dumb enough to tell Nancy a lot of these thoughts. Like he tells her Raven is a smoke show, that she's the type of girl he would go for in real life, that her and SK are a bad match. He's kind of obsessing over their relationship. And Nancy pretends to be cool about it in the moment, but in the interview, she's kind of like, what the fuck? Which I agree with her. What the fuck? You don't say those things out loud. I mean, I guess it's like honesty and all, but like, Bartise, you're getting yourself in trouble and just setting up Nancy to be very insecure about Raven. So my prediction for this couple is that they'll make it, tentative. I was rooting for them so much until the ex's party where Bartise started wavering. And my faith was also shaken after seeing the preview where it looked like he was still kind of drifting towards Raven. If they do fail, he's definitely the weak point in the relationship, but I'm hopeful they can make it work. Let's move on to Zanab and Cole, starting with Zanab, who is 30 and a realtor according to new information, but on the show she was a flight attendant as her occupation. And Zanab feels sophisticated and well-traveled. What really starts bonding her with Cole, who she has chemistry with, is that she loves God and he loves God. And her vulnerable secret that she tells to Cole at a certain point is that her parents passed away when she was a teenager. It was a really sad story. I felt bad for her, obviously. And Cole appreciates that. He also really appreciates how well traveled she is and that they could travel together a lot because she's a flight attendant. But she doesn't end up in any real love triangles and stays with Cole through the pods. She says she wants them to pray together, that she prayed for him last night, and that makes him lose it. That makes him be like, I'm falling in love with you because you prayed for me last night. So let's talk about Cole, who is 27 and a realtor. So apparently Zanab is a realtor now, and maybe that's a clue that they ended up together and Cole showed her how to get into the business of realtor. But Cole to me has a lot of Barnett vibes from season 1. Kinda goofy energy. He talks about how dating as an adult is so hard, and in high school you had a big pool of people, and in college there were babes everywhere. So that's the kind of way he talks, and he's just kind of this goofy guy. And at first he has chemistry with Colleen, and him and Colleen were very much giving me live, laugh, love couple. Disney adults, got married right after high school. That kind of vibe. But he ends up breaking it off with Colleen because she's not able to get deep with him. I was honestly shipping them at first, to be honest. I mean, as cringy as a couple they seem together, they also felt kind of like a good match because they're both a little cringy to me. But Colleen isn't able to get deep and she just walks out, and that's the end of their relationship. And so he ends up pursuing Zanab. And his big vulnerability secret that he admits to her is that he was married before and he's divorced, and his marriage lasted 4.5 months and he had only known her for like 2 months before that. Sounded like a very impulsive kind of thing, but they're divorced now and he claims he learned a lot from that. And like I said, he's very into God. He almost creamed his pants when she said he prayed for him. That is what hooked him into a proposal. So Zanab and Cole post-engagement, they're very excited. They are also a couple with a lot of physical chemistry upon first meeting, very all over each other. He's also excited she has bigger boobs than he expected. And in the honeymoon, we see Zanab and Cole do a jacuzzi date in a much nicer sized pool than our previous couple. It was in this moment where I was starting to see his immaturity. He kept like splashing her in the pool. He was like, this conversation is boring. What's your favorite big cat? It was giving babysitting a little brother energy to me. And Zanab is so like sophisticated to me that it just started to seem like a mismatch. I really liked when they met. It felt like kind of wholesome and they were very into each other. But this jacuzzi date was giving Babysitter's Club. However, Zanab doesn't seem to have as much of a problem with it as I do, and they still are very attracted to each other physically. At night, he is annoyed by how long her nighttime routine is because she has a very extensive skincare and teeth routine. She does seem to have some insecurity around makeup, which I felt for her. It's sad, like she kept asking him like, do I look like a different person? And he would joke around about it, but it seemed like she was too sensitive to even have it joked about. I thought his jokes were like not out of line. He was like, oh my god, it's a different person, but it was clearly a sarcastic tone. But the whole rest of the night she's like, do I really look like a different person without makeup? Like she was taking it so serious, and I was just like, girl, you look great. And I don't know, it seems like she puts a lot of weight into her makeup, which is also very skilled. That's the annoying thing about having reality TV cameras around. They will catch any insecurity if you have it. Zanab and Cole did have sex that night, but she kind of got upset the morning after because he just woke up, rolled over, and got up instead of cuddling and talking with her in the morning, having a more relaxed morning together. She starts worrying that he's not into her anymore. I feel so bad for Zanab because it's such a relatable type of insecurity. Just always feeling that insecurity in a relationship, and like he suddenly won't find you attractive. He suddenly won't like you anymore, even though he's constantly reassuring her that he does like her. During the morning, Zanab is all kind of upset on the side about how the morning went, and Cole is just like confused and like, oh, I thought everything was fine. And Zanab tries to tell him like, oh, you're being coy about this, and then he doesn't know what coy means, which I'm just like, oh, Cole. Amber and Barnett in season 1 both had this immature energy, and they worked because they both had it, but him and Zanab just feel like a mismatch in maturity levels. Though Zanab does have some stuff to work out that might come with maturity, I don't know. But I was sad that I really shipped them in the pods, and afterwards it just felt like, ugh, I don't know about y'all anymore. Like they start fighting about the word good versus the word great, and Zanab is just really hung up on semantics, and I'm just like, this man doesn't know what coy means. You think he's ready to talk about like slight relative meanings of adjectives? No. And then they play chess and cornhole, and he tries to teach her chess, but she's really bad at it. And then later she's like, are you less attracted to me because I'm bad at chess? And again, it's this insecurity thing of like always testing him like, well, do you find me not attractive now? How about now? How about now? But I understand someone with anxiety, like I understand those thought spirals very well. So it's like, ugh. I feel you, girl, but you're okay. It doesn't matter if you can't play chess. And he starts to worry that she is passive aggressive because in all these interactions, she has a passive aggressiveness about how she tells him like, don't leave the towel on the coffee table. I don't know if passive aggressive was the best word for it. I think it's more this kind of insecurity with certain things and the relationship that is the issue. At least they're frequently talking about it. However, I don't know if those conversations are that productive. They talk about wanting to rekindle their pod magic, but I just worry that if you're already thinking about that, I don't know if it's possible to rekindle it. And at the ex's meetup party, they admit that they had sex to people, like the boys talk to the boys, the girls talk to the girls, and Cole tells them that they're fine physically but struggling emotionally, and Zanab says the same thing to the girls. So it's weird how they're both on the same page about how they're physically good but emotionally rocky, but can't seem to come to like a good place together. Also, Cole is kind of eyeing Colleen now, saying she's hot and the type of person that he would go for in the real world. So I thought Cole was so solid, well, not as solid. He's struggling. I think he's just, he's young. I don't know if he knows what to do. So that's kind of an imminent threat, potentially. And in the preview, it looked like he was going to talk to Colleen more. So we will see. But my prediction for Zanab and Cole is that they won't make it at this time. It's weird because they have some really good moments, and they had a lot of sex, and they're into each other and say I love you to each other a lot. I just think these core issues are already there. It's too soon, like in the honeymoon stage, to have these like little squabbles about towels and stuff. They're in different spaces mentally, and I don't know if they can come to the same space in a month, which is a ridiculous time to marry someone, but that's what the show is. Let's move on to Colleen and Matt. Colleen is 26 and a ballet dancer slash PR strategist, apparently, according to the infographic. She's a little basic, but she's kind of this relatable type of girl to me. She's the co-worker energy person of the cast. Also, when she's talking to all the guys in the pods, everyone's really into her being a ballet dancer because flexible. But the main two guys she has chemistry with are Cole and Brennon. However, Brennon tells Colleen that he found someone else, and then later on Cole asks her to be deep and she can't get deep with him. So she's really sad about her two rejections, and then later she talks to Matt, who was a guy we had barely seen in the pods, and she talks to him about how she struggles with getting vulnerable and how she's into positive thinking. I'm telling y'all, she has a live, laugh, love sign in her living room. I am certain of it. Her and Matt actually end up having chemistry and bonding a lot. They discuss marriage, and she reassures him that she wouldn't cheat on him because that's something that happened to him in his past. And then they fall in love, and he proposes and she says yes, and she's very relieved that he proposed. I think she was worried he wouldn't. She was very adamant about her goal of getting engaged. I know everyone is on the show, but she was one of the most intense about the goal of getting married. Let's talk about Matt, who is a mystery man. We don't know that much about him. He's 28 and apparently a private charter sales executive. Whatever that means, no idea. We see him for the first time in episode 2. So we don't really see him in episode 1. And I was like, who is this guy? And he's also into positive thinking. So him and Colleen are the perfect match. He's also a very basic man to me. And his big vulnerability secret is that he was married to his high school sweetheart, but then she cheated and got pregnant with the person she cheated with. That's a rough time. I do feel bad for him. As little as we know about him, we know that, and that sucks. Post-engagement, Colleen and Matt, when they meet, they're a little bit awkward, but still into each other. Like, they're a little awkward, but both happy, and they're kissing. To me, it kind of looked like Colleen was a little more in love with the ring than she was with Matt. Get you a girl who looks at you like this girl looks at this ring. But on the honeymoon, Matt and Colleen really are into each other a lot physically. At the beginning, Colleen is showing him all her dresses and telling him to pick one. They're having like flirtatious banter about it, and he's just very into her physically. They're both very comfortable with each other, like hugging and sitting together. They're making out. They're doing more than making out, it looks like. They also have sex the first night. But the next day, they're still going strong, unlike some of the other couples. They both seem excited for marriage. At the ex's meetup party, Colleen does say that Cole is cute. It didn't go much beyond that. Maybe in the preview we saw a little more interaction between her and Cole, and we'll see how that plays out. But Colleen definitely seems more solid with Matt than Cole seems with Zanab. And Matt remains very loyal. He tells the boys his only anxiety is that Colleen is being deceptive about something and not as in it as he is, but as for him, he's very in this. So my prediction for this couple is that they will make it. I mean, I have hope. They seem solid and really into each other. Colleen seems to be very into marriage in general, so it seems like that commitment will lead her to tying the knot fully. And Matt just seems very loyal, so it's kind of like, I feel like they have a good shot. But yeah, they're like a basic match made in heaven to me. Next, let's talk about Alexa and Brennon, who I hate to say it, but they are like the filler couple of the season just because they have very little screen time. They're like that one couple from season 1 that was there the whole time, but you always forget about them until you randomly see them every so often and you're like, oh yeah, y'all are here. What? I don't even remember those people's names, but I remember Amber and Barnett, Janina, and Damien. I remember Lauren and Cameron, of course. So unfortunately, Alexa and Brennon seem to be that couple that the camera is just ignoring. Firstly, Alexa, she is 27 and an insurance agency owner. They really got people with boring jobs this season. And when we're introduced to Alexa, she does address her weight. She is a little bit of a plus size woman, and she mentions that she's happy with it. She loves food. and she accepts her body for what it is. I found that to be really unfair because you don't see any of the skinny bitches be like, I'm skinny because so-and-so thing. It's like, I was just kind of annoyed that Alexa had to give a disclaimer about her weight. Alexa is probably my favorite cast member. It's unfortunate she's in the couple with the least screen time, but I really like her. I think she's a baddie and she just seems like a cool girl. She has a big family, a lot of siblings that she cares a lot about. She really loves kids too. She has a lot of family that's little kids. And she has chemistry with Brennon right off the bat, and they stick together for most of the pods. They're able to talk about their families, religion, and he tells her he's in love and that she's his lobster, which is a Friends reference, which is cool. I think. I mean, that's where I heard it. And she loves him back, and they're the first couple engaged that we see. As far as Brennon, he is 32 and a water treatment engineer. Apparently he's very smart according to some of the boys later on we hear. And it was nice. He told Colleen pretty early on that he found someone else with Alexa and that it wasn't going to work out with her. Brennon does feel like a very rural type of guy. I was kind of wondering, Brennon, where were you on January 6, 2021? I'm just curious. Just want to know for my girl Alexa. Alexa and Brennon post-engagement. When they meet, it goes well. They're both into each other. He's very into her. He's more into her than she's to him, I think. But she's also kind of like, she has standards and she's picky, and that's part of why I like her. Like, there was a confidence with Alexa that I think is what's drawing me to her so much. And on the honeymoon, we don't see much of them. We see some conversations where they talk about bugs. And Alexa's struggling a little more to match the personality she fell in love with in the pods with the face of Brennon. And Brennon is very in love, like always saying I love you to her, but she's a little more cold. But not like cold, just like he'll be like, I love you so much, and she's like, do you? But like in a funny and sassy way, not like in a serious mad way, you know what I mean? Like, she's just kind of the queen of the relationship, and I don't think it's a problem yet, but I'm curious to see how it plays out. Also, the first night Brennon snored, but Alexa thought it was cute, which I was like, okay girl, cool. He also got to see her without makeup. Normally she wears a full face. Much respect. And Brennon reassures her that she doesn't need to wear makeup around him, that it's fine, and then she admits that she gets Botox, and I fully expected Brennon to be like, what is that? Or plastic surgery? Ugh, like, I prefer natural, like all men say, but they don't actually know what they like and don't like because they can't tell when someone has Botox or plastic surgery. But to my surprise, he responds, oh, I get Botox too. And I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't as much of a mismatch as I thought. And that conversation with them was my favorite by far interaction that we saw of them, because it felt like there was more common ground than meets the eye. I was like, oh, maybe this guy isn't so rural after all, if he knows what Botox is. So Brennon surprised me there in a good way. Alexa and Brennon do touch on their families, and so far their families sound really different. And Brennon's like, when you come to my family, you gotta get dirty. And she's like, no. But even though they kind of have so little in common, they don't seem to argue or have like animosity the way some other couples do, and so they grew on me as time went on. It wasn't quite clear at first if they had sex the first night, but at the ex's meetup party, Alexa admits to the girls that they have had sex, and she mentions in an interview that she's like, at the ice cream shop, I have to try all the flavors, of course. That's why she's my favorite, like, she gets it. The sex thing for the couples, to me, it makes it feel more real, at least, because that was something in season 2 that was just like, these couples didn't even like each other enough to have sex with each other like once. But season 3, they're a lot more just open to it, and I wonder if the casting people on purpose casted sluttier people, because that's what I would do if I was a producer. Sex leads to quicker connections and is what you want for your reality show. So I imagine they upped the sluttiness level on the casting decisions this season, and I'm glad. As far as my prediction for Alexa and Brennon, I at this time want to say they won't make it. They do feel solid though. I'm just worried about their mismatchness. Like when their families meet, I feel like they're setting that up to be kind of like difficult. And to me, she's just such a like city girl baddie, and he's such a rural country boy that it feels like two different worlds. I am open to changing my mind on them though. I'm not very certain on them, and I'm excited to see where they go. It could be an opposites attract situation. Something to keep in mind though is that the amount of screen time they're getting isn't promising for them going through with the marriage. I feel like if they were staying together at the end, we would see a lot more of them. Like that season 1 couple whose names we can't remember. They seemed solid, and then on the wedding day, we're just like, nah. And now our final couple is Raven and SK. Oh, Raven and SK. Oh. Every other couple is living in season 1, and Raven and SK are living in season 2, unfortunately, because they have a similar amount of no chemistry as the couples of season 2. Raven is 29 and she's a Pilates instructor. She is very fit, definitely has the most fit body in the pods. She has chemistry with Bartise, like we said. She's a serial worker outer and they bonded over that. But she also has chemistry with SK. However, we only see her tell her vulnerability secret to Bartise when she says she bartends and does like bottle service, which implies like sexy bartending. I don't know, she made it sound like, well, it's because some men have issues with that. It's such a different world than the world I live in, but probably some men have issues with women working in the service industry. We don't see Raven tell that to SK. I'm sure it was edited out, but it's interesting. Also, from the pods, it's clear Raven doesn't like Nancy very much, so that's something interesting that is building that rivalry up. She thinks Nancy is too agreeable and like bubbly to the point of being a little fake. Raven does seem really useful in the pods because she teaches all the girls Pilates and leads Pilates classes. I love Pilates, you guys. That's like my favorite kind of exercise. I'm hoping Pilates comes back someday and becomes trendy again. But anyway, when Bartise comes in to reject Raven, she is actually reciprocating and saying, you know what, it's a no from me too, and I found someone else that's more emotionally reassuring. They break it off mutually in the pods. And then SK and Raven talk again about values. They're both very kind of like philosophical about love and complicated, and SK likes that she's complicated. And once SK proposes to Raven though, it looked like she was gonna walk out and say no. And maybe that was foreshadowing with their relationship not going great, but no, she just walked to the door and walked back and said yes. Let's move on to SK, who she got engaged to. He is 34 and he's a data engineer. He is Nigerian and he's very like educated. He's like going to Berkeley soon, I think. His big vulnerability secret is that he comes from a polyamorous family, but he doesn't intend to apply that lifestyle to his own love life. He does appreciate that Raven isn't judgy about him coming from that kind of family. In general, he just seems emotionally aware and pretty chill. And as far as Raven and SK post-engagement, they definitely have the most awkward meeting. From the pods, I didn't think they had like insane amount of chemistry. Like I thought they got along, but there didn't seem to be much passion there from either side. And then when they met, it was just kind of the same thing. It was the most nervous meeting. They just had a little peck of a kiss and just were not having any kind of chemistry. Unfortunately, through the honeymoon, the physical awkwardness remained. They stayed physically kind of distant from each other. So of course, that first night they did not have sex, and they were the only couple not to. The next day, Raven makes SK do Pilates training with her, and she's a hard ass about it to him. I felt so bad. It takes a lot of training and muscles to be good, and she was whipping his ass at Pilates. I mean, he said he wanted a complex person, and he got a complex person with Raven. Later on, they have a date where they meditate at the beach, and SK falls asleep and snores during the meditation. Raven is pretty salty about it. She's the one that seems passive-aggressive to me. That term describes her a lot more accurately than Zanab necessarily. He was like, did you enjoy the meditation? And she's like, I couldn't tell beyond you snoring. And they do talk about their awkwardness. They talk about how it's gonna take time and it's gradual, but it's too gradual at this point. She asks him to like give her more pizzazz and that they need to not be a muffin and need to be a cupcake, and he was like, cupcakes are worse, kinda. I don't know. They were they're just on opposite pages at all times. But he's being very patient and trying to be there for her, and Raven is just hard to read. At the ex's meetup party, SK opens up to the boys about all that's been going on, and Bartise particularly thinks it's very weird, and like I said, he thinks it'd be different with him. And Raven also mentions that she is into Bartise's muscles and she's eyeing that. With them two at the ex's party, I felt like there was more of a mutual feeling of like, damn, FOMO. And as far as predictions go on this couple, this is the one I'm most certain about, of course. There is no way that Raven and SK are gonna make it. The chemistry is not there, and it never was, in my opinion. Also, Bartise is kind of in the equation, and we'll see how that plays out, if that influences Raven and her relationship. But I just feel like SK and Raven are gonna be that couple that breaks up first. They can't just keep stringing it along until the end at this rate. I'm not sure about anyone else, but then I can be sure about watching them be the ones that get married. So that's all our couples. It's a long video because it's a long show. 4 hours of my life. This season I'm drinking the Kool-Aid a little, and there are couples I root for. There's people in the cast I like. There's people I find funny. I'm shocked. Like, I was not excited for season 3. After season 2 and covering it, I felt kind of like obligated to make videos because they get views for some reason. But season 3 so far has been enjoyable, and I'm genuinely curious and excited to see where the journey takes these couples. They don't feel as clout chasey. They feel somewhat genuine, or at least like they're earnestly giving it a try and taking the engagement seriously. And so far, I have no idea what the fandom thinks, so I would love to hear your thoughts about Love is Blind Season 3 and the cast in the comments below. And make sure to check back right here on my channel for a part 2. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos once or twice a week about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous on Instagram or Twitter to find out about new videos, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!